woman here right now. Serah Laine is in the house. She's a dear girlfriend of mine. She is a spiritual master, really. You work one-on-one with people, all kinds of things. What else?
How
else? You're programming, all the above, right?
Yes.
But we spoke together at Love Made, and you spoke a lot about the balance of the masculine and feminine within.
Yes. And I love your guys' earlier conversation and how it's all about balance. I have 4 planets in Libra. This is I'm good with this
I don't even know what that means.
What does that mean?
That means balance is key for me.
Oh, good.
Right?
Wow.
Balance in relationships, balance in work, in life, you know. And I love how you equally said, you know, how we have relationships with everything. So we have relationships with ourselves, but then we do with business, with money, with spirit, you know. So keeping that balance is key to ultimately, I feel like, living in your purpose, living in alignment, and making sure that you're, I guess, really living a life of ultimate fulfillment, right?
Absolutely love that, and I couldn't agree more that, and Erin said it really well earlier, that when you're clear about your purpose, often balance seems to work itself out to a large extent, right? Yeah. How did you discover your purpose?
I believe, honestly, that it's an ongoing process, right? So I don't think that you can ever quantify your purpose, right? Like you can, for me, it's getting in touch with that higher energy, whether you
But Serah, take us back to the actual moment. I know that you had something specifically happen to you that brought you on this journey. Tell us a little bit about that.
So yes, I believe you do have life transitions that lead you on another path. And if that's what you're talking about, I had a near-death experience in my mid-20s, and that sort of, like, whatever path I was on, it was like, nope, you're not going that way. And it really felt like an energetic force that was like guiding me towards a totally different direction. And everybody has free will. So ultimately then it was my choice to, do I follow this or in this sort of heart calling, or do I suppress that and, you know, follow what I should do or shouldn't do, or what everybody expects you to do, you know, that kind of thing.
So what made you choose the
What made me
heart
choose?
choice? Yeah.
It became overwhelming, and I think I sat with myself, and I remember the moment where I was like, okay, if I don't do this, I either do this now or I'm never gonna do it. That was the first thing. And then I said, if I don't do this, then like I didn't feel like I would be truly aligning with something that felt bigger than me, if that makes sense.
So what was your first step in taking action towards something that was bigger than you?
What was my first step?
Yeah.
Packing up my stuff, selling the rest of it, and moving to Sedona.
It's a good place. Literally the vortex.
Yeah, that
Literally.
takes so
Couple
much courage, though. I mean, you really, truly like flipped a switch and transformed your life.
Yeah, I was completely scared out of my mind.
Was it hard?
That's a interesting statement. I think it was hard and easy at the same time. You know, so talking about balance again, right? Like, yes, there's a little bit where you're like, okay, you feel like you're on the edge of that cliff, and you're like, I'm literally having a panic attack because you don't know what's going to happen, right? You don't know whether you have wings to fly. You realize after you jump off, like that's when you grow them, right? You don't have them before. No, but that wouldn't involve trust in self and trust in, I guess, a higher energy, right? Or aligning to that higher energy, which I believe is ultimately you anyways.
That speaks to me so deeply, because there's very few times in my life that I thought I've heard the voice of God or the universe or whatever it is. And I was so afraid to take a certain risk because I was going to crash and burn. I was like, and I was praying, God, give me a parachute, because if I fall, this might kill me. And I heard so clearly, you already have wings.
Yeah.
Stop asking for a parachute. You already have wings. Just fly. And I was like,
Trust.
oh my God, yeah, game changer.
Yeah.
Literally.
You're like,
oh my God.
Yeah, oh my God, I heard you. You have wings, but it's so incredible to me that you had the same message. You took that risk. What has been the best, like, greatest reward in doing that for you?
Everything. Absolutely everything. I wouldn't, I mean, you know, maybe looking back in hindsight, I'd be like, okay, I'd choose that, or maybe I'd choose it sooner, right? And yet at the same time, there's divine timing. So like you show up when, and everything is supported to have you be in alignment, right? And yet at the same time, I wouldn't change anything. I feel like I'm living more in fulfillment now than I think. Before, I felt like I was living my life through a keyhole, and I thought there were only a few possibilities for me, right? And I was like very passionate about them, and yet at the same time, I was like, okay, now I'm more expanded, right? There was this essence of, I don't know, maybe you've had that feeling of like trying to fit yourself into a box, square peg in a round hole, right? Being in the industry, it's very much like that. Like you have to look this way, you have to talk this way, you have to be, you know,
Be this person
Be
for
this
this
person.
role. Yeah,
Yes.
you can't just be yourself.
no. No.
So take us forward to now. You found that balance.
Yeah.
You love your life. You're working with clients.
Yeah.
How does the masculine and feminine helping them balance that help balance their life?
Yes. So I believe that everyone has a balance of masculine and feminine within them, right? Gay, straight, man, woman, doesn't matter. And so for instance, you know, there's a lot of women who are, you know, stepping into the more of that empowering role, right? Really stepping into their confidence, and they want to grow a business. They want to also then have a thriving romantic relationship, right? And so some things with that might be more masculine energy that you would need to growing a business and pursuing that and taking action, that then isn't so beneficial to bring into a relationship side of things, right? Because the universe ultimately also wants to create balance. So if you're running more, let's say either masculine or feminine energy, the universe will then bring to you the balance of whatever is opposite to you.
How do you maintain that balance?
How do you maintain the balance of the masculine and feminine
Yeah.
specifically? To me, it really comes down to, you know, and I created this blueprint and we use that, right? Called Mastering Masculine and Feminine Alchemy. What it really boils down to is resistance or being in flow. So if you have resistance around anything, right, then granted you're also in resistance to a resource that's within you, right? So you're not being your true self or divinity or your most authentic self, right? If we have both and you have resistance to something that's already within you, then you're only in resistance to yourself.
Very true. We say it's like almost like there's a lie. If there's any area that's being stuck or blocked, or you feel empowered, it's because there's a limiting belief.
Yes.
You don't believe. There's a lie going on.
Yes.
Yep.
And then that follows up with your emotional state and everything else goes out the window.
I love this. I love this conversation. I once read, all resistance boils down to a thought that I'm not one with God. That's all resistance.
That's the
It's a
truth.
simple thought, right? Yeah.
Right.
Go straight to truth.
So, question: Does this balance look different for every individual? Is it something that's
Everybody's, because you have literally, you know, there's many different energies within the masculine and different energies within the feminine. So one person's chart could look totally different than somebody else's on the scale of masculine, feminine, and the specifics within that field. So,
So what practices have been most critical to you in your journey?
what practices? Maintaining emotional alignment.
Yeah. How do you do that?
How do I maintain emotional alignment? I check in with myself often, right? I feel like there's a part of me that is experiencing something, and then there's a part of me that's the observer that's observing me doing whatever that is, right? So whenever, you know, it's all a process and a journey. So whenever, you know, I might even be in an emotional funk, right? As we all do. I'm half experiencing it and then half observing it. And if I can bring myself more to the observer, then I have conscious choice.
Love that.
Yeah, I think I forget who it was it said it, but basically
Young?
the idea was that yeah, it could have been right. It could have said the idea was that we're always 100% in alignment, and sometimes we're aware of it, and sometimes we're not. When
Yes.
we're aware of it, we call it alignment. When we're not aware of it, we call it
So
resistance.
true.
We're
Yeah,
always
yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, so I just love you sharing.
That was a hard concept for me to get. It's
Yes.
we're always in alignment.
No,
What do you
always in
mean?
alignment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
It's
It's
a
like
thought in a way.
serendipity versus zemblanity. Like we
Right.
feel like we're always manifesting. We're always in alignment. It's just we may not want to have the experience of alignment
Yeah.
we're in. We're in the alignment of crap right now. It was
Yes.
awesome.
But then either way, that's still a choice too.
Right.
You're either choosing not to be in alignment or choosing to be in alignment. Or you're just kind of driving your car in a straight line, or you're like, okay, I'm gonna go kamikaze over here and like go off-roading for a minute and then I'll find my way back eventually.
But balance again. You know, in LA, I was asked a question by Paul Dolman, and he said, "Can you really stay connected, to source in LA?" And I go, "Well, it's a question I ask myself every day, right? Because it's a little bit more challenging with all the Wi-Fi. How do you find balance, truly? Because you do have clients, you have, live streams, you have events you're speaking at. How do you, when you say enough is enough, I got to do me for a little bit?"
That kind of goes a little bit back to, what I said even this morning. Like I'm very specific about my morning ritual. I'm like, that time is for me to sort of fill my cup back up before I go out and then be of service to then supporting other people, right? So I think that's important for all of us. And as far as the balance of when to sort of have that, I don't want to say pushing energy, right? But the sort of take action energy, and then that sort of flow when you want to like back off and like lean into it. I actually follow the moon's energy with that.
Well, she's got 4 Libra moons.
There's
a lot happening with that.
Something interesting earlier too, and I think it sort of harkens back to the idea of like non-doership, right? Which is the scriptural idea that sort of like I can of myself do nothing, that it's something larger, greater than me that I'm also one with that does something through me. And when I hear athletes talk or entertainers talk, they often talk about being almost a non-doer, that the action happens through them but not by them. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because I love the connection there.
So my first instinct is to say, I don't think you're ever not doing anything. And yet, to balance it, there is a process of setting your intention for something, right? And what energy you want to sort of push out and intend to do. And then there's that like, okay, let me lean back and allow. And if that's allowing for an inspiration to come down through you from your higher self, from God, from consciousness, whatever your term is for it, then there's like this, it's kind of like driving a stick shift, like you have to hit the gas, and then when you want to shift, like you have to let off the gas and hit the clutch.
That's a good one.
That's a great metaphor. I totally get it.
So wait, we want to know about the moons though. The full moon was like yesterday, the day before, right? So is there some special moon, or tell? If I'm not I don't keep up on all that.
Right.
So tell us.
No, basically, and ancients and experts have been using, astrology, but also the energy of the moon. And maybe I do because it's around, the moon influences your emotions, right?
Of course. I mean,
and
who could deny that?
Of course. And I personally believe that your emotions are your most powerful, right? Aside from the mindset, right? I believe that our power center is through emotions. And so we're getting influence constantly. And the moon has a waxing period for 2 weeks and then a waning period for 2 weeks. So literally that sort of gas on and then like gas off.
Does this happen every month? This moon thing? Wow. I don't know. I gotta ask.
That was the most amazing question I've ever heard. Yes, the moon cycles every month.
Okay. Well, now we know.
Influence
Now
though,
we know.
Jazz, you're right. The influence.
Yes,
I think
the
that's
influence,
the piece.
the planetary influence, yes.
I think that's the
There's
piece.
different.
Because we're all clear that, the moon rotates and revolves around.
Yes, clearly I know that, but I'm
The
wondering.
influence.
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome,
but it was
Jazz.
good. Yeah.
Awesome.
I got you, Jazz. I got you.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, you I think the full moon was in Pisces, I think. So yes, there's different influences every time we have the cycle.
Okay.
Yes, and then also, of course, how it influences you, right? And I'm not an astrologer, right? And yet I empower others and empower that work to sort of, kind of check in. Like, to be honest, whenever I don't feel in balance, I check in with myself emotionally, but I also check sort of what's going on with the planets because they do influence us. You can call it woo-woo, or you can just be like, okay, that's real.
Yeah. I mean, how can you not know that we're connected to the stars? I mean, I get like the interpretation of astrology may be a little bit wacky.
Right.
But I mean, obviously, we're 70% water, and the moon is all the, like, I don't know.
The tides.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, there's lots of teachers that simply say we just are simply stardust. That's all we are. We're just stardust.
Yes. I believe that we are suits, right? We have this consciousness that is a body, and it's we have a relationship with our body, and then our spirit, soul, you can analyze that all you want, but ultimately that essence sort of comes into the body, and then we're having the experience through that. And whatever you choose to have that experience, you know, ultimately, like, for me, it's finding what that fulfillment is, right? So even if you have a job that maybe you don't love, right? Finding that thing, you know, and you were all talking earlier about finding your purpose. I believe that is ultimately, if you can find that, then that will help you create a balance in anything. Find your purpose, you're gonna have a balance in your romantic relationships. Find your purpose, you're gonna have a balance in your business. Hopefully those go hand in hand too, you know?
So where can people work with you? How can they find you?
Go to my Instagram.
Best place.
Best place. I do so much more connecting to that community over there and really building a community. So, and yes, as you mentioned, every Tuesday is Soul Circle. It's an Instagram live Q&A.
7 p.m.?
7 p.m.
Be
Pacific
there
Standard
or be square.
Time. Yeah,
No pun intended.
Thank you. Yes, so Serah is SerahDlaine. So Serah Laine. And yeah, bring your questions. It's a wonderful community that we're helping just to, you know, level up the consciousness. You know, I like to say that everybody sort of comes with their questions, and in order to, you know, find out more about what's going on for them, and yet at the same time, you know, each aha moment that someone has, whether it's a question they've asked or somebody else asked that they didn't know that they had, then that aha moment helps to level up the cultural community, if you will, of our whole collective consciousness.
Right.
Level up.
Thank you
Serah.
so much. That's
Great.
right.
Serah Laine. Yes.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.